Alright, we have made it to chapter 3. If you guys are new to this series on my channel, we have been going through every single chapter and revisiting some of the best and worst items from those chapters. And today just so happens to be the best weapons and items from chapter 3. I'll be honest with you, chapter 3 was a little bit of a rough season, but there are some standout weapons that we're going to look at today. If you guys go on to enjoy this video, be sure to leave it a like and use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop. With all that being said, let's get right into this. And of course, we begin our journey through Chapter 3 with Chapter 3 Season 1. And I think I can say for many people, this was probably the best season of this chapter. And I would consider the MK7 Assault Rifle to not only be the best weapon this season, probably the best weapon of the entire chapter. It is probably the best assault rifle of all time, depending who you ask. I mean, on launch, right, this thing was absolutely busted. I mean, no question about it, the best. The Mythic version, the Foundation's MK7 is probably the best weapon that's ever been in this game. Of course, both versions got nerfed a ton, but still, I think they remain a top-tier assault rifle. In my opinion, it was the dominant assault rifle. To me, there was no question. It was never going to be the Ranger AR. It was always the MK7. Also, it's important to mention that this was the first, like, real red dot, like, first-person shooter-esque weapon that we got in Fortnite. We never had a weapon that had a red dot, and this weapon started that trend for a ton of other weapons. This is honestly just a really crucial weapon in Fortnite history, and it certainly goes down as one of the best. There will be no arguments about this one here. And another item that there won't be any arguing about is Spider-Man's web shooters. And you want to talk about like revolutionary items in the history of Fortnite. Well, this is one of them, right? This paved the way for items like ODM gear. And look, we just talked about one of the best assault rifles of all time. Well, this is certainly one of the best mobility items, if not the best. At the time of its launch, I would say, yeah, it was probably the best mobility item we had ever seen. I know at the time when it was out, a lot of people complained about the third partying, right? Because it's almost like the mobility was like too good. You know what I'm saying? You could enter any fight, you could leave any fight. So anytime you heard someone shooting and you had the web shooters in your hand, well, you could just get into that fight in about 5 or 10 seconds. Just like the MK7, they tried to nerf the web shooters by nerfing, I believe it was the amount of uses that you had in it. It didn't matter, right? Everybody was still carrying this. And to me, these are like the cover boys for Chapter 3. When I think of the best weapons and items in Chapter 3, it's the MK7 and right behind it, the Spider-Man web shooters. So yeah, no surprises here. Next, though, we have a weapon that really could be in Chapter 3 Season 4, but I'm going to put it here because it really was introduced in Chapter 3 Season 1. That's the Hunter Bolt Action Sniper Rifle. So yeah, when I just said the name of this weapon, I'm sure the first thing you thought about was the Chapter 3 Season 4 version, the one that was absolutely dominant and one of the best snipers ever. But it actually wasn't like that. It was introduced in Chapter 3 Season 1, and it was criminally bad. Like, it was really, really bad. And when I say bad, I mean, guys, just listen to this damage, right? We are talking common through legendary rarities, right? Listen to this damage: 81, 86, 90, 95, and 99. That means you could not one-shot body shot with a legendary sniper rifle. That is ridiculous. Not to mention that it is a bolt action sniper. Furthermore, the headshot multiplier was only 2.0. So even if you did hit a headshot in the legendary rarity, you were not going to one-shot headshot. So this weapon was terrible on launch. I would actually say probably the worst sniper. So I'm going to put it in the Chapter 3 Season 1 slot because, well, that's when it was introduced in the game. But once it came back in Chapter 3 Season 4, well, that's when it became extraordinary. Damage got massively buffed. You were being able to one-shot headshot in almost every single rarity. Massive damage increases. You were able to one-shot headshot in every single rarity because they buffed the headshot damage multiplier from 2.0 to 2.5 times. So yeah, in Chapter 3 Season 4, this thing got a massive buff, but in Chapter 3 Season 1, it was pretty terrible. Now, let's move to Chapter 3 Season 2, and I'll be straight up with everybody watching this video. I did not play a ton of Chapter 3 Season 2, but I played enough to know kind of what the good and bad weapons were. And one of the good weapons is absolutely the Ranger shotgun. Honestly, Chapter 3 is really not known at all for its shotguns. In fact, I would say it probably has the worst shotguns out of any chapter. I mean, if you really think about it, we had what? Two-shot shotgun, striker pump shotgun, auto shotgun, prime shotgun, right? You just had a lot of like really mid, semi-weak shotguns. And I do actually think there could be a decent argument for the Ranger shotgun being the best shotgun we got in the entirety of Chapter 3. And yeah, this is the prime example of a high-risk, high-reward shotgun. You know, I was just recording a video the other day and talking about the Mammoth pistol, which of course is like the definition of a high-risk, high-reward weapon. But the risk, of course, becomes amplified when you're talking about shotguns, right? Because a lot of those shotgun fights are really like you have 1 or 2 shots. And that was exactly the case with the Ranger shotgun. You had basically one shot. If you were in somebody's box, you had that one big shot. If you missed it, you were going to lose the fight. But the Ranger also had incredible range. That's what made it stand out, because you had such a tight pellet spread. I believe like the tightest pellet spread of any shotgun, besides of course like the slug shotguns, like the heavy shotgun, the new version. In terms of just shotguns overall, I would consider the Ranger to actually be kind of underrated. In build mode, I can see why you wouldn't like to use it, but in zero builds, I know a lot of players that really love this, and this was the go-to shotgun, especially when you had SMGs like the combat SMG to pair it up with. You were set. And well, since I just mentioned the combat SMG, let's just talk about it right now. What a dominant weapon on launch. There was a time when the combat SMG was absolutely untouchable. It was a must-take weapon people were using for assault rifles, SMG, sniper, shotguns. It didn't matter. You just needed the combat SMG. This thing was destructive. It was so strong. Of course, it got a ton of nerfs. The biggest nerf it saw, in my opinion, was not actually to the damage or the headshot multiplier, which yes, they nerfed all those things. It was actually the accuracy, right? If you use the combat SMG now, if you go into creative, the recoil is out of control, right? It will go straight up to the sky. Good luck trying to control it. But back then in Chapter 3, that was not the case. The combat SMG was just a straight beam. I don't know how else to say it. But one of the biggest crimes in Fortnite history was in Chapter 3, Season 3. It literally says in the files, vaulted the combat SMG to make room for the charge SMG. I mean, that's brutal. The charge SMG sucks. And when the worst weapons of this chapter comes out, yeah, you know the charge SMG is going to be in that video. What a crazy history this weapon has. I still think with all the nerfs, the combat SMG is a top tier weapon in the chapter. All right, let's talk about an assault rifle here. That's going to be Sloan's Striker AR. And I just get so confused with all these Striker assault rifles. I mean, I literally had to look up a video to remember what this weapon was, but once I watched a video, yeah, this thing was dominant as a mythic in Chapter 3, Season 2. Obviously, we have the Striker Burst now currently in the game. We have a regular Striker AR currently in the game, and in Chapter 3, Season 2 was Sloan's Striker Assault Rifle. And if you guys think the current Striker Burst in Chapter 5, Season 4 is OP, dude, then you gotta see this thing. I don't know if you guys actually understand how good a DPS of 135 for a burst weapon is. People like to regard like Ocean's Burst Assault Rifle as one of the top burst weapons in Fortnite history. That had a DPS of 140, right? So you're right around that area with Sloan's. I always felt like this was a no doubt to be on this list. When I went back to thinking about Chapter 3, Season 2, this was the best weapon in that season. Especially in zero build, just not a chance. Yeah, look, I'm gonna quit my yapping because I could just go on and on about how good this burst rifle was, but yeah, look, I've spoken my piece on it, all right? And all right, that is it for Chapter 3, Season 2. We are now on to Chapter 3, Season 3, and what were some of the best weapons in that season? Well, I guess some of you may consider this a cop-out, but I'm going to put a group of them together. That's going to be just the anime mythics. So the Nimbus Cloud, Kamehameha. You guys have absolutely no idea how many times I just rehearsed that to try and pronounce it right. I really hope that's right. So any of you anime guys in the comment section below, please let me know if I pronounce that right. But yeah, of course, I mean, these paved the way for so many more anime mythics to come to the game. And at the time, I think some people were frustrated and called them too strong and broken. Looking back on it, I wouldn't say that much. To me, yes, the Nimbus Cloud was a solid mobility. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's like anything insanely crazy, like definitely not broken. Spider-Man web shooters were absolutely better than it. It was just really good because you could negate all fall damage. So you could drop at any time as high as you want to be, drop on top of somebody, you would take no fall damage, have your shotgun out, and yeah, you know how that story ends. And the other one, yeah, you know, I'm not going to pronounce it in case I butchered it the first time, was absolutely destructive, just ran through like everything. But it was pretty decently easy to counter, I would say. I mean, if you had a sniper and you got that blue glare on your screen, just move like 5 steps to the right and just snipe them. Well, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, these weapons were not strong. Yes, they were absolutely strong, absolutely some of the best weapons in Chapter 3. I think they were decently balanced, to be honest with you. And yeah, that's all I got for Chapter 3, Season 3. But Chapter 3, Season 4 was a pretty crazy season, and I got some crazy weapons here. So yeah, we gotta talk about the goo gun, right? I mean, let's just cut all the funny business. Let's get straight to the point. What the hell is this? The fact that this weapon even existed in Fortnite makes literally no sense sense to me. But even though it is such a weird weapon, it was actually incredible. Like in terms of explosive weapons, launchers, that kind of realm of weapons, I would probably say like top 5 of all time. And I actually think that's being quite conservative, because I think you could go out on a limb and say top 3. If you were playing like duos, trios, or squads and you were attacked by 2, 3, or even 4 of these at a time, it was game over. Like I'm talking mech level game over. Like when you saw it, it was done. You got so much ammo for this, and the explosions were just all over the place. It had an incredible area of effect. It was just everything that you wanted in a launcher you got here. I mean, the Fortnite wiki here says its range is very limited. I can promise you this thing had incredible range. You could be on top of like one of those balloons, like those redeploy balloons, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Just shoot the goo gun off it and it would explode over everybody. I get that I'm being a little bit sus here, right? But still, the goo gun was really, really good. And the final weapon of this video is actually a mythic item. It is Harold's Evochrome Burst Assault Rifle. And actually, if you guys didn't know, the mythic version of just the regular Evochrome Burst Assault Rifle does the exact same damage as the Harold's Burst Assault Rifle. But I'm telling you guys, Harold's Burst AR felt absolutely different. This thing was just melting through builds. But I feel like made it so good is with one pull of the trigger, you would just decimate through any wall and the bullets would leak through. For me, like this was the assault rifle I was going for nonstop in Chapter 3, Season 4. And I would say in terms of like burst ARs in Fortnite history, this has got to be ranked pretty high, right? Some of you may consider this a little bit of a reach, considering Chapter 3, Season 4 didn't really have any like crazy, broken, overpowered weapons. We didn't really get that much in Chapter 3, Season 4. But I couldn't help the fact that like the first thing I thought about when I thought about Chapter 3 Season 4 was Harold's Burst AR, so here it is on this list. Alright guys, that was a little revisitation down memory lane for some of Fortnite's best weapons in all of Chapter 3. Stay tuned, because the worst weapons of Chapter 3, which is going to be a good one because there are a lot of them, will drop shortly. And after that, well, we move on to Chapter 2. So if you guys enjoyed this series so far, be sure to leave this video a like and check out the other ones. With that all being said, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.